Hello and welcome. I am Scarperlock, and this is City of Villains on the Rebirth server. We are with our Mastermind. Level 31, Nightmare Lass, who has 1.3 million experience, 273,000 to go to get to level 32, and our final power in our primary. 138 million influence because I just sold a couple of archetype origin enhancements that I don't need for about 3 and 10 million each, and so we got an extra 13 mil. Right now we have in our Mastermind set, we need one more. I've got to wait another day or two for that. However, it's been a while since I have done any posts. Kivar actually asked me about it in one of the comments, and the reason that I did not make any posts in the last few days is there are two reasons. One is the last video that I shot 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that. I think today's Wednesday. The last video I shot was Sunday, I think. I did a whole half hour, explained why I had been sporadically uploading recently and was maybe going to continue to be sporadic. And I didn't have the mic wasn't being recorded. I've been using a Blue Yeti mic for my teaching my classes, and then using this headphone mic for doing gaming, because I think that actually the headphone mic has a little bit better sound, and also the headphone mic is less in my way than the Blue Yeti would be if it's stuck in my face when I'm trying to talk. And so I've been using that, but I forgot to switch OBS from the Blue Yeti to the headphone mic, and so while I was talking, nothing was being recorded because the Blue Yeti mic wasn't even plugged in. So I got a whole video of silence, and I didn't bother posting that. It actually caused us to finish the story arc. So let me go ahead and turn the story arc in, and then I will, as we get to our next mission, I will talk about why I haven't been posting, and why for maybe as much as another month or so I may not be able to post much, if at all, depending on whether I get lucky or whether I get unlucky. But let's go ahead and turn in our story arc. So I finished the Midnight's Hand with this contact, Ashley McKnight. She says the Nymphus Visage, but I thought that was lost, so we found it for her. So she says you can access the Midnighters Club. It's in the door behind me. So we've now completed the Midnighters story arc, and now we have Mercedes Sheldon as a contact. So let's go ahead and do that, because that will guarantee us a story arc. I think that's... Can't remember if that's in Sharkhead or Nerva. I'll just have to look for it, guys. Sorry about that. So, as we look, why am I not able to post? Well, I'm having problems with my computer. I don't know if there's a power supply problem, or if it's... I think it might be the liquid cooler. And what happens is it's just making a lot of fan noise, vibrating kind of noise. I can actually feel it vibrating through the desk. And so, yeah, it's been causing issues tonight. I ordered a new computer. I don't see the university here. I ordered a new computer from CyberPower PC, which is the guys who built this current one. This one's almost 4 years old, so it's lasted me a while. And so, yeah, when that comes, I'll have a new computer, and I'll be able to play even better than I could play now, because it's going to be even more awesome. It's going to have an RTX 2080 Super video card in it, and it's going to have an i9 10th gen processor instead of the i7 7th gen that I have in this machine. It's going to have 32 gigs of RAM again instead of the 16 I'm on now, because my old graphics card died. So all of that is great. Where the heck is the university here? Or the Midnighters Club? So anyway, all of that is great and awesome, and it's going to be a really cool computer, but it's not going to get here for almost a month, according to their current estimates. So I won't be able to guarantee that I can record or play. If the computer survives, if it keeps living, and I can keep using it to do the things I'm doing for work, then I will record. If I have to drop back to my work laptop, heaven forbid, I won't be able to do hardly anything on that except some very simple work stuff, and I don't even know how the recording is going to go on that, because this computer has been struggling with the recording. So, you know, my students may have to suffer with bad video quality and that sort of thing also. I don't know. So it's just sort of an unknown. My hope is that, you know, by October 1st, today is August 26th, I think. By October 1st, I should be back to normal and I'll be videotaping, but in between now and then, over the next month or so, I just can't guarantee anything until the new computer arrives. Alright, let me pause this here, and I'm going to look up how to get to the Midnighters Club in the villain area, because I've never done that before, and I will get right back to you. Well, I am a moron. It was in the zone that I was in. It didn't even occur to me to check. I just assumed it was going to be in a higher level zone. And I could have sworn I saw it in either Sharkhead or Nerva, but apparently it's here. So now I've got to find it. And yep, there it is, University. Usually the Midnighter Club is adjacent to the University campus. So we should be able to get in there and talk to Mercedes. Let's see, contacts. There she is. Alright, so she's going to be in the University, and we'll just head in there. So yeah, guys, I've been, stuck, unable to play as much as I want. For example, Saturday I ran my D&D game at night and I was ready for it, so ordinarily to kind of relax and get myself and kind of get all this kind of energy out so that I'm ready to do some DMing. Ordinarily I would play some City of Heroes before I start to run the game. I didn't even try. I was concerned that if I attempted to do that I might. And there's Ash McKnight, so I've actually been over here and I forgot it. I was afraid if I ran stuff on this computer, it might potentially damage the CPU or cause a crash that I couldn't recover from. And I didn't want to do that if I was going to run D&D that night, because I didn't want to have, right as soon as I was about to start playing, no computer access. If this thing crashes now, between now and a week and a half from now when I'm playing D&D again, I would be able to find some solution to play with my friends. But in an afternoon or something, if this whole thing crashed, I don't know if I'd have time to bring up my old laptop, see if it's still alive, try to use my work laptop or whatever. So anyway, here's Mercedes, and she says, Dead Man's Deck, Part 1. I know you are busy, Nightmare Less, so I'll make this quick. There's an artifact of mine that was stolen. Get it back for me. Okay. So we need to go fight 10 Longbow. Persuade a few members of the Longbow to give you information in Crimson Clove of Nerva Archipelago. So she says, my source indicates that the artifact, a magical deck of cards known as the Dead Man's Deck, has been purchased by a member of the Longbow. As you can imagine, this makes the situation a bit delicate for me. I can't just go over to Nerva and accuse the Longbow personnel of purchasing illegally trafficked magic items. So I'm forced to use you. Alright, so we're going to go and defeat 10 Longbow, and that will, tell us where they keep it, I guess, and probably lead us to a mission. So this is different. Mercedes, I think, sends you on the, what is it called? There's some cassette. I can't remember the name of it. There's like a magical cassette. Hopefully this leads me where I want to go. The Dirge of Chaos or something, isn't it? Yep, that's where I want to go. Get out of there. Okay. This is very cool interior. I actually really like it a lot. It looks like you're in a rich mansion. Yeah, so guys, when I was recording last time, what I probably said, I'm certain it was that I was going to be getting a gaming laptop. I was planning to do that. Gaming laptop I was looking at was about $2,200, and it had a 2070 mobile super card. It had 16 gigs of RAM. It had a terabyte hard drive, things like that, and a 10th generation i7. It was an Asus. It was pretty good rating, although 2 issues with it were listed as having been that it gets very hot, and you have to prop it up a little bit off the desk to make sure it doesn't overheat, and which is not a problem, and that it's very loud. And there are some complaints about Asus's they have like a software application that's designed to switch the laptop's fans and cooling and other stuff between silent mode, performance mode, and turbo mode. And one of the complaints was that turbo mode doesn't just boost the fans, it also overclocks the GPU and the CPU, which of course is stupid. If you're having cooling problems, you don't want to overclock. So there should be some other way to do that. And yeah, I was a little hesitant about that. I thought, okay, well, I can handle the cooling stuff by just raising it off the desk. I actually have a thing for my old laptop to do that, and the old laptop was a 17-inch, 17.3 or something. That was actually a little big for that stand, but this was a 15-inch, which is pretty much exactly the right size for that stand, so it probably would have worked. But, you know, as I said to a friend of mine who said, why don't you just get a desktop? And I usually alternate between laptops and desktops for whatever reason, and I really would like the mobility of being able to go somewhere else in the house and use the laptop if I want to. Maybe not for gaming, but to do things like do Zoom with my students. If it's too bright in here, I can just go to a different room, which you can't do with a desktop. But yeah, in the end, two things happened. One, when it was in stock at, I believe, Newegg, when I was looking about... Oh, there's a boss here. Oh, well, whoa. He's way below us, so we should be alright in terms of level. He's weak, so we should be fine. Yeah, so it was in stock like 2 days ago when I looked at it. Today when I said, you know what? I started pricing out a desktop, and it was going to be even more, like $2,300. And I said, you know what? Let me just... And then I found out it was going to be... Then I found out it was going to be like a month. And I said, you know what? This laptop can be here in a couple days. According to Newegg, it would have arrived like probably Monday. And I'll be ready to go, and it'll be better than my current desktop is by a little bit, and it'll probably be great. And Asus makes good stuff, so I'm sure it would be alright. And so I was going to just get it, and when I went to get it, out of stock. So, and it's not even in stock in Asus's own website, let alone Newegg, let alone Amazon. So I said, alright, well, I guess that's not going to happen. And I had worked really hard trying to find the laptop that I wanted, that had the specs that I wanted. One of the issues I had, like the Razer was a very highly rated, in part because it didn't reach the temperatures that the Asus does and didn't have the cooling issues, but that's because it had a 2070 Max Q rather than a regular 2070 Super in it. I think it's Super Max Q, but the Max Q is actually designed to reduce the power draw of the CPU to keep the not the CPU, the GPU, to keep the system from overheating. So of course it doesn't get as hot or as loud because it's throttling the GPU, which the Asus doesn't do. So I don't like that either. I don't want my GPU throttled. So yeah, I wasn't too happy with any of that, and finally, because there weren't any available, even like the Razers I think weren't in stock either, so it didn't matter. I just decided, all right, I found the one, you know, laptop that I was happy with, enough with, that I would have been okay with, and I can't get it. Screw it, I'm just going to get a desktop. And so, yeah, I ended up spending like $2,400 and got an absolute beast of an i9 10th generation 2080 Super RTX NVIDIA card, liquid cooled, etc., etc. I really hate liquid cooling. I would really rather go back to air cooling, but and air cooling actually does work. The kinds of fans they have now on the CPUs that are actually multiple fans that do a pass over the CPU rather than just a fan on top of it, like they used to have in the old days where it's blowing up. Now they have fans blowing across with a really nice heat sink in between the fan and the CPU, so that the CPU gets heat sunk to the fan, and then the air is being blown over the CPU from one side of the case to the other. And if it's mounted well, some of those fans can perform really well. And I actually saw a video where a couple of these tech guys actually took liquid coolers and air coolers, and there was some name brand, I can't remember the name, Nuck maybe, that um, their air fan actually performed a couple of degrees better than the liquid cooler. Now, the difference is the liquid cooler takes a long time to heat up to its max temperature because the liquid in the liquid cooler has a higher ability to hold, store, and transfer heat than air does. So what happens is the CPU heats up to its max, whatever max is going to be, under the fan or the liquid cooler in a very short period of time, maybe a couple minutes, with an air cooler, and it might take it like 10 minutes to heat up to its max temperature with a liquid cooler, by which time you may have stopped using whatever was causing all the CPU cycles. And so the liquid cooler is better for burst performance, but at least under their tests, versus the particular brand that they were using of air cooler, it wasn't really any better for long-term performance. You can just sit there and game for 2 hours. Then most of that 2 hours, you're going to have the two CPUs being at the same temperature, whether they're liquid or air cooled. It's just take the liquid cooler 10 minutes longer to get there. If you're only going to be crunching for 10 minutes, then you want, the liquid cooler. And it's really hard to get a good air cooler in a place like CyberPower. And they offered the options, but none of them were the ones that were rated as being as good as a liquid cooler. So I went with the liquid cooler. And even there, they didn't have the brand I wanted. So I settled for a more sort of a generic Asetek. I think it'll be fine. Alright, so now we have to go to the mission door. And here's a question. Will our minions teleport with us? I bet they won't. If they don't, I'm just going to despawn them. Or you know what? Maybe I'll run into the mission door and see if they come with me. Oh yeah, they all came. Not bad. Alright, guys, we can go inside. Alright, so we found the location of the deck, and now we're going to go look for it, I guess. And cool, this is some sort of a casino. I don't know if we've ever been in one of these. Not for a while. Who's shooting me? Or are these guys shooting each other? They're shooting each other. Okay, well, we'll just start attacking. Let's go ahead and give Curly some resistance. We really don't need that. So yeah, one of the things is we're one ATO shy. Oh boy, this is a boss. Hang on. I am talking too much and not paying attention. We are one ATO shy. Let's give Curly hell on earth. We are one ATO shy of having our archetype set completed. And so that's really cool. I checked tonight, and I guess it hasn't been 4 days. So the rule on this server is, I guess, as in live, you have to wait 4 days in between each purchase of an ATO. This is incredibly stupid to have it that way on Rebirth. That was all done so that they could milk as much money out of you as they could, right? That they wanted you to prefer not to wait, what would it be, 24 days? If you don't want to wait 24 days, you would instead just buy some packs, which were not guaranteed to give you exactly what you wanted, but had a chance of giving you what you wanted. And so what they were hoping was impatient players would just buy pack after pack after pack rather than waiting. And there's a minion. Rather than waiting 4 days for each one. But it's kind of silly to have it on this server because you can't pay for it, so you have to wait. And why are you making me wait, right? I'm not paying a subscription. You're not getting any extra money out of me for making me wait 24 days. So I don't know. But in any case, we have to wait. I bought the last one Sunday. It's been 3 days, so my guess is next episode that I'm able to shoot, if I can shoot sometime soon, or if I have to wait till the end of September, it'd still be the next episode I can shoot. I should be able to get the last ATO, and we can put that set into this part here. And I put the invention generics in here, and I probably don't really need to do that. I don't really have anywhere to put them, but I can unslot them, I guess. And then we'll just delete these guys. Okay. So let's contact Mercedes. So I'm gonna have to go over there, guys. I'm not gonna make you watch that. I will bring you back when we are with Mercedes. Alright, folks, we're back with Mercedes, and she says, "Excellent job, Nightmare Lass. I should have figured that miscreant Darren Wade, he's the one who had the deck, would be involved with my stolen artifacts. Let me see the deck. The magical aura is strange. Wait a minute, what in the world? This deck is fake! Ah, I knew Darren was a jerk, but selling fake magic items is an all-new low, even for him. If that bloody scoundrel made a fake of the deck, then he probably kept the real one for himself. I feel that you and I have met a true friend and ally. Nightmare Lass, together we will do great things. That with you I have met, a true friend and ally. Alright, so part 2. Alright, I'm really pissed, Nightmare Lass. I'm surprised they used that word in this game. Leave it to Darren Wade to get under my skin like this. I want to hire you again. This time I need you to talk to Darren Wade and make it crystal clear that if he doesn't return the real deck, then you'll beat him up. He's in Sharkhead Isle. Alright, let's go talk to him. And I will head over there, and I will bring you guys back when we are at the mission door. Alright, here we are with Darren Wade, and he says, how is Mercedes still fussing over her private collection? I assume she wants her dead man's deck back. Well, as you already know, I sold a fake to that poor longbow officer. I usually don't make a business of selling fakes, but seeing as how Hector never got me the items I requested, and I had standing orders for those items, I had to do what I had to do. So I cast a slight glamour on him, on a normal deck of playing cards, and sent that longbow fool off to get busted by the casino. Honestly, the idiot was doomed to fail from the beginning. The house always wins. Always. It wouldn't matter, even if you had the real dead man's deck. If you want to know where the real deck is, you're going to have to do some legwork, because I, sadly, don't have it. Hector, in his infinite wisdom, presented it to the carnival as a sort of peace offering. Obviously, that didn't work out as well as he'd planned. At any rate, I heard the carnival's in possession of the deck, and in doing a show over in Paragon tonight. Perhaps you could consider a night out on the town. So now we have to go get the dead man's deck from the carnival. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If he gave Hector a fake deck, how come the carnival got the real deck from Hector? I'm not clear on that. Why doesn't Darren still have the deck? It's a little odd. So this may be a little bit of a long episode. I haven't played in a while, and my computer, knock on wood, is holding up okay. So it's making some noise and vibrating through the table a little bit, but it seems like it's holding its own. Temperatures aren't spiking too high, so I'm going to keep going with this. And as we go, let's talk a little bit about role-playing. And I actually want to talk about some differences between, say, role-playing on a game like this and an MMORPG. And what do we need? 4 Carney bosses to defeat. Well, that's going to take a while. Let's go invisible and see if we can find one. Let's talk about role-playing and the difference between role-playing and character design, actually, in an MMORPG versus in a tabletop game. This came up because on the City of Heroes, the Dungeons and Dragons D&D Beyond forum, and I'm going to just outline the area before we look for the bosses. On the D&D Beyond forum, there are some arguments going on about some changes that Dungeons and Dragons is making to the way races work in a new update and a new sort of supplement book called Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or something that's going to be coming out in the fall. Now, there have been a lot of people talking about doing this for many years. If you go back to original D&D, there are different species, which D&D calls races, and each race, let's just call them that because that's what D&D calls them, has different characteristics, bonuses, and penalties. In the old days, what the way they thought of it was that humans are essentially the default. Humans get +0 to every stat. The stats in D&D being strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. There are other stats in other games. And so the idea of the races and how they relate to their stats is that each race, is that a boss? That's a boss. Okay, so we're going to fight those guys. We're going to probably fight these guys. So let's start off over here. This is pretty safe, and we'll start summoning. So humans are +0 to everything. And each race, other than humans, gets bonuses and penalties under old school D&D, like first edition AD&D. And those penalties reflect how those races are physically and mentally abled, whatever you want to call it, how much ability they have compared to a human. So if we give, say, a halfling -1 strength, +1 dexterity, what that's saying is that halflings are, on average, a little weaker, but a little more agile than humans are. On the other hand, if we give half-orcs +2 strength, +1 con, -2 intelligence, what that's saying is that half-orcs are a little dumber, stronger, and tougher than humans. Now, what this means is that certain character classes that need those abilities, like intelligence or strength, are actually better to be played as a certain race if your focus is on min-maxing your build, right? And so there are people who in this thread were arguing, well, you shouldn't, if you want to play a half-orc wizard, you shouldn't have to quote-unquote gimp yourself, which means purposely making yourself weak. You shouldn't have to do that because, after all, you should be able to play whatever you want. And of course, I've been making the argument in there, and I'm normally all for freedom, but I've been making the argument that although freedom is great, yes, if you're going to have races should matter, right? They shouldn't be irrelevant. Your race shouldn't be irrelevant. If it is, you should just make a bunch of humans, right? If you want a character that can be anything, there is a species in D&D for that. It's called a human being. And you really don't need to play any other character if you're just looking for having the stats be whatever you want, right? You do that with humans. But if you're going to make up a halfling, just like that halfling is going to be shorter than a human, it should also be a little weaker and maybe a little more agile and better at stealth than a human, because those are racial traits or species traits of the halfling. If you're not going to give the species any traits, why have species? And so, and there are a couple of people who were arguing, and you're going to see their endurance down here getting really zapped because that's what carnies do. People in the forum are arguing, no, we want the freedom. And so, and the big argument is, well, if you don't do it this way, if you don't allow all of this freedom, if you make every half-orc take a -1 to charisma and a +1 to strength, or what have you, now there are no penalties, right? It's just bonuses. So now it's not that the half-orc has a penalty to intelligence and wouldn't make a good wizard. It's that not having a bonus in the stat that your character class needs is kind of considered a penalty, right? You not having a +2, having a 0 is like a -2 because you wanted to put your +2 in that stat, right? And the argument is if you're not able to play a character class and race class combo where you could put the +2 in your primary stat and the +1 in your secondary stat, you have somehow gimped yourself. And now you're playing a suboptimal, subpar, as they like to call it, character. And, you're now an anchor weighing down the team. You're an albatross around their necks. And nobody's going to want to play with your character because they have to carry your character, and your character is gimped. And I read this and I thought, wow, that sounds an awful lot like the kinds of comments you hear from players of MMOs, and I accidentally blundered into this boss, didn't I? Alright, let's give us a little boost. Yep, we're going to lose everybody here. That was a mistake. I did not see her there. Let's see if we can defeat this minion. And then we'll go after her, and I'll summon the little guys. And now she's attacking me. See if I can help myself here. There we go. And let's give the minions some protection. We should be able to get her now with everybody. And with me defended. That was a mistake. I didn't see her there. So yeah, I was thinking, I feel like I'm in an MMO, right? There are people who would say things like, playing, and if you've seen Silver Phoenix, you've watched how entirely non-gimped she was. They would say, if you're playing early on, when it was City of Blasters, everybody thought the only viable, like, the main viable characters were tankers and blasters. They would tolerate controllers and defenders if they were healing defenders, because people were thinking in terms of other MMOs and didn't realize how good buffing and debuffing can be in City of Heroes. And so they would say things like, if you're not playing a healing defender, we won't let you in the group. You're gimped. If you're playing a scrapper, no thanks, you're gimped. We'd rather have a tanker, we'd rather have a controller, we'd rather have a blaster. Scrappers don't do enough DPS because they have to run around targeting things, and blasters can just tab target and shoot at range. So they don't do enough DPS, and they don't have enough defenses. A tanker is better. They can't taunt. They can only single target taunt, and it's just not worth it. We won't group with scrappers. We won't group with non-healing defenders, right? And this is something that this is just very, very common in MMOs. You have to have not just a good build that works well. You have to have the forum-approved, conventional wisdom, flavor of the month build, or you are bad at the game, you are a bad character designer, and we won't play with you. And so I could see making the argument that you shouldn't have things like racial bonuses in an MMO, because in an MMO, if you don't have that +2 in exactly the right stat, a lot of people won't play with you. They won't put you on their team. And it's not entirely the fault of the players, although it mostly is, because there are some parts of some MMOs that are so intense and so hair trigger and so on the knife edge that if you dare have even the slightest non-optimality in your build, the game will just steamroll you. Now, there isn't a lot of that in City of Heroes, although I think the Incarnate Trials might be, which is why people always insist you have to use voice in the Incarnate Trials, because it's such a hair trigger. But anything else in City of Heroes, you really don't need to be that perfect. But there are people who would say things like, if you don't have not just enhancement sets, but the right enhancement sets, the enhancement sets that give you the bonuses that I think you should have, then you're a bad designer and I won't play with you. And so, again, I could see, if you're in an MMO, saying, look, we want to be able to build optimally because people won't play with us if we don't. And we want our build to be optimal. And also, in an MMO, you are playing with a computer as your quote-unquote dungeon master. And the computer is ruthless, it is heartless, it will do exactly what it was programmed to do. And it was programmed to do the things it's doing by a developer who is making assumptions about your character that he cannot confirm or deny. Okay. But D&D isn't an MMO. It's not even close. It is a game you play around the table or on the Zoom chat with your friends. You know the people you're playing with. They're not strangers. You also know the DM, and he knows you, and he knows your characters. So you don't need to be optimal to survive your D&D adventure because your DM can balance it for your group. And if he's got a bunch of players who have non-optimal builds, that's fine. He can just not have you go up against quite such difficult enemies. It's not a problem. And the DM knows if you haven't built optimally, and I did it again, didn't I? The DM knows if you haven't built optimally for combat, that you must have put the points in somewhere else. So maybe that half-orc wizard with the non-20 intelligence, the intelligence is only +1 instead of +3 or whatever, well, he's got a really high strength. Maybe he can do some things out of combat, like break down doors or whatever, that a regular wizard couldn't, and maybe the DM will give you the opportunity to do such things. So the idea is that you don't have to do the min-maxing and the build perfection with your character in Dungeons and Dragons. Why did she not teleport to me? What am I doing? You don't have to do that the way you have to do it in an MMO. And in fact, doing it is self-defeating, because unlike the computer, which doesn't always automatically scale everything to the build that you have, the Dungeon Master knows your build. And if he knows he's got a party full of player characters who are all highly optimized, he's just going to put harder monsters up against you, harder traps for you to disarm, because he knows you've got more bonuses, right? If he knows that your characters all have +6, he'll make his traps a DC of 20. If he knows your characters only have +3, maybe the traps are a DC of 17. And so he can adjust, he can change it. Right? The idea that this is all being done in a vacuum and you have to have some objective, perfect combination of things, and if you can't do that, you're somehow gimped and you're an anchor, you're weighing down your team. It's just ridiculous. And the other thing I would say too is it's also basically saying I don't want to roleplay, because if you're making a realistic character that's believable, a realistic character that acts like a character would act as it in a real person, you have to have flaws. I said this in the Silver Phoenix playthrough, I believe. Suboptimal character design, suboptimal play is in character. Very few people act in an optimal way all the time. And in fact, most people act decidedly suboptimal most of the time. And hardly anyone has a perfect, optimal genetic composition for whatever their profession is. Most of us are suited to our profession somewhat, but have severe drawbacks to our personality or our physique that make us far from the most perfect person who could possibly be in our profession. And it should be the same thing with characters. And I'm not saying you should purposely take something that makes your character weak for no good reason. But if you say, look, I'm going to make a half-orc wizard, and half-orcs are known as not having the intelligence bonus that humans have, not having the that, say, elves have, then you know you're not going to be as powerful as an elven wizard. Well, that should be part of your character, right? And it shouldn't be a problem. You can roleplay about it. It can make your character more interesting. So, I don't know. It just seems like people have played so many MMOs and computer games now where you have a ruthless, heartless, evil dictator, and there's the last boss. You have a ruthless, heartless, evil dictator of a game master in the computer running the game, that they assume, oh, we just aggroed her. They seem to assume that everybody is going to act the way sorry, I'm paying attention to my guys. They assume that everybody's going to act in D&D the way their MMO friends would act. And not even MMO friends, but MMO strangers, right? People you don't even know. And I would hope that most people, when they're playing D&D around the table, are not playing with people who are as unpleasant to be around as many of the MMO players who are strangers and just will, I mean, the heck, they'll, as I said to one person on the forum, they'll PK you, which means player kill you. They will PK you just as soon as they'll add you to their team. And they'll kick you the second they sense you not doing what they think you should do. I don't want to play D&D with people like that. Heck, I don't even want to play in pickup groups with people like that, which is why I don't do pickup groups. I don't feel like dealing with people who are going to judge my build. Oh, there is the person we're looking for. And I'm going to die, aren't I? It's an ambush, so she's coming after me. So yeah, I would say, guys, you know, don't consider the fact that your character not has a penalty, but doesn't happen to have a +2 bonus in your prime stat to be a problem. Just consider it to be something to roleplay about, and you can easily get feats or do or get additional pluses to your character when you level up every 4 levels that will completely cover whatever weakness your character may have had. And furthermore, if it's something like this game, if you want to play with SOs, play with SOs. Don't let somebody tell you that that's going to make you gimped. Look at my character. Is it gimped? I mean, most of my characters are playing missions on +2 and I need to +1 or +2 and I need to raise it. Once I get SOs, like, what more do I need? I'm already playing it harder than the game was meant to be played. How much more powerful does this character need to be? And I'll say again, you know, with my so-called gimped build of my scrapper in City of Heroes when I was on the Daybreak Initiative, I played a mission, an 8-person mission with some of those guys who were like the uber builder people who could tell you the best build you could possibly have with any character. And yeah, we went through that mission and I'm the only one who didn't faceplant. So if I'm so gimped, why were they faceplanting? The one who's the uber builder faceplanted 3 times. Just kept getting killed. I didn't even come close. So if my character is so gimped, how come mine's the one that didn't die? You know, I don't listen to these people. Make the character that you want to make, and if it has some negatives, treat that as something cool to roleplay about, instead of something that's bad for your character. That's enough about that. Let's see. Finale, you found the deck. So why are you coming back to see me? Oh, I see. You figured I might outbid Miss Sheldon on it. No, thank you. I don't need the ire of that woman any more than I already do. So he says the Midnight Squad wants to hide the power of the deck from the world. What a waste. Not going to read all that text. So he doesn't want it, so we give it back to Mercedes. And she says, please tell Darren. Please tell me that Darren acted like a phenomenal scumbag and you had to rearrange his face. No, pity that. I wouldn't have minded seeing that horrible chin scruff removed. At any rate, it sounds like you had to deal with quite a bit of trouble in order to get the deck back. Actually, not really. Are you sure that the Carnival didn't have a fake too? Good. All this back and forth is making me flustered, so I can only imagine how you must feel. Here's the pay, I promise you. So, wow, we're like almost halfway through level 31, guys. And let's look at our prestige. So our supergroup right now has 76k. We got another 100k or so to go. So it's going to be a while. But I've earned 148,000 all by myself with this character, which isn't too bad. Alright, this is beginning to be a long episode, and I don't want to tax my computer too much. I will not be doing daily episodes because I don't want to tax the computer too much. But every couple of days, I'm going to see if I can do an episode because I really need this game to relax and unwind. So I hope you'll join me when I can add more videos, and I do apologize for how inconsistent it's going to be, but I've got a new computer on order just tonight, so hopefully in the next few weeks I'll get it, and everything will go back to normal with my upload schedule. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Villains.